Hello students, myself Dr. Sofia Gupta. So in this video we'll start with types of intermolecular forces. So basically intermolecular forces, it means that the forces that are existing between the molecules. Okay. So basically there are four types of intermolecular forces and we will discuss each type with example one by one. Now the first type is dipole-dipole forces of attraction. Now firstly you should know what is dipole. As the name indicate, di means two and poles means it should have positive and negative charge. So this is a basic dipole. Like for example HCl. H is positively charged, Cl is negatively charged. So it is an example of dipole. It is also known as polar molecule. So basically polar molecules are those molecules in which there is charge separation in a molecule. If we talk about H2 molecule, there is no charge separation. So it comes under the category of non-polar molecule. I hope the concept of dipole, polar molecule, non-polar molecule is clear to you. So now we'll start with dipole-dipole forces of attraction. So as the name indicate, there is one dipole. See, this is a dipole and this is the other dipole. Now this positive charge and this negative charge and positive charge, they will attract each other. So the forces of attraction which is existing between this first dipole and the second dipole is known as dipole-dipole forces of attraction. The main point you can note over here is that it exists between two polar molecules. Okay? Now the example of this is like between HCl, HCl, water. These are the polar molecules. So the forces of attraction that exist between the polar molecules is known as dipole-dipole forces of attraction. I hope this is clear to you. Now moving on to the next, that is ion dipole forces of attraction. We know that ion means any particle which is charged. It can be either positive charge or negative charge. Positive charge particles are known as cation while the negative charge particles are known as anion. Now see, I've already told you dipole previously. So when an ion, let's say cation, approaches a dipole, so what it will do, the positive charge will have a force of attraction with the negative end of the dipole. Similarly, if an ion approaches a dipole, then the negative charge will have attraction with the positive of the dipole. So the forces of attraction that exist between this ion and a dipole is known as ion dipole forces of attraction. Now see students, the example of this type is hydration of NaCl. We know that NaCl is a salt. On dissolving it in water, it splits into Na positive and Cl negative. Okay. Now we know that, let's say this is a beaker, it's having water. We know water, it is having a structure like this where hydrogens are carrying positive charge while oxygen is having a negative charge, right? So like this, positive charge. Now when we dissolve NaCl, it will split into ions, Na positive, Cl negative. So Na positive will have a force of attraction with O atom, while Cl negative will have force of attraction with H. So this is ion dipole force of attraction. Clear? मतलब one, you should have a polar molecule. Dipole is basically a polar molecule, okay, and one, you should have an ion. So the forces of attraction which is existing between the ion and a dipole is known as ion dipole forces of attraction. I hope this one is clear. Now the third type is ion induced dipole forces of attraction. See, like we will study the 4 intermolecular forces of attraction, out of which we have studied the 2. You might have noticed that from the name itself the definition of that particular type is clear. Now ion, you know that it is can be positive or negative, as I told you. Now you should understand the concept of induced dipole. Okay, see, now what is induced dipole? The main thing is that you should keep in mind induced dipoles are basically those which initially are not a dipole, but when any ion or a dipole approaches them, they become a dipole. So that is known as induced dipole. For example, you are having a non-polar molecule. Okay, we know that in a non-polar molecule the charges are not in a like separated way, they are randomly distributed, like positive, negative, positive, negative. Now when a cation will approach towards a non-polar molecule, what will happen? It will attract the negative ion to negatively charged towards one side and positively charged towards other side. So this is known as induced dipole. What is induced dipole? Initially it was not a dipole, but when any ion approaches that molecule, it became a dipole. So this is known as induced dipole. Now the force of attraction between this ion and this induced dipole is known as ion induced dipole forces of attraction. Okay, so this forces mainly exist between an ion and a known polar molecule. Okay, this you can also say that ion induced, or you can say that dipole induced dipole forces of attraction. Matlab in this, instead of ion we are taking a dipole, so what will be it do? Like this is negative charge and on one side, no, so it will attract the positive charge on one side and the negative will be left on other side. So the force of attraction between this dipole and this induced dipole is known as dipole induced dipole forces of attraction. I hope that is clear. Like for example, between HCl and H2, this is an example of ion induced dipole force of attraction. Now the last type, which is very important, is instantaneous dipole induced dipole forces of attraction. It is also known as dispersion forces and also known as London force of attraction. Okay, in this basically exists between the two non-polar molecules. Okay, so for example, I have told you non-polar molecule, in the non-polar molecule there is no charge separation, so the charges, they are randomly distributed. Now we know that the electron cloud is moving continuously, so for a fraction of second what can happen, that the negative charge comes on one side and positive charge comes on other side. This will happen for a very fraction of second. It can happen because there is always a probability of everything. So for a fraction of second the positive charge will come on one side and the negative charge will come on the other side. So what it will do, it was a non-polar molecule, for a fraction of second it got converted into dipole. This is known as instantaneous dipole. Now what it will do, similarly with the other non-polar molecule, this negative end will attract the positive charge towards one side and the negative will be left other side. So this is positive, negative. This is induced dipole. Now the force of attraction that exists between this instantaneous dipole and this induced dipole is known as London forces or dispersion forces. Like here also in this non-polar molecule, the charges will be randomly distributed. When this first non-polar molecule become a polar for a very fraction of second, instantaneous dipole, what it will do, it will attract the positive charge towards one side and negative will be left on the other side, due to which it becomes induced dipole, and the forces of attraction is known as London or dispersion forces. This example you can cite over here is the forces between H2 molecule, F2, Cl2. For all those non-polar molecules, the forces exist between them is London or dispersion forces. I hope student this was a very easy topic. The 4 intermolecular forces of attraction is clear to you, and if you are having any doubt relatedly, kindly comment down and I'll try to sort it out for you. Thank you.